Hey, what's up guys? This is Matt from Top Tier here, back with another video today. Today we're going to be doing a Ocarina of Time Dungeons tier list redo. This is actually a special video. The first video I ever did on this channel was Ocarina of Time Dungeons, and I did that about almost a year ago now. Yeah, I think so. But anyways, I was kind of unsatisfied with how that video turned out. There were some issues with it. The original tier list on Tier Maker didn't really look that good. Some of the dungeons you couldn't see what they were and there was no text on them, so I went ahead and I scrapped that and I completely did it from scratch. And we have a brand new tier list today with all the dungeons down here, as you can see. I've added all new artwork for this and I added some titles, so go ahead and check it out. It's on Tier Maker. I'll put the link in the description. But yeah, we have a new Ocarina of Time Dungeons tier list, and we're going to get into it, and we're going to start in order here. And so the first one we're going to go with is the Great Deku Tree. The Great Deku Tree is the first dungeon in the game of Ocarina of Time. In my opinion, it's one of the better dungeons in the game, and it's one of the best introductions in the history of intro dungeons in the history of gaming. And I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna give the Great Deku Tree a B tier. I think it's definitely worthy of this. It's not the best dungeon in the game, but it really sets the game off on the right foot. It sets the tone for the entire game. The atmosphere of this dungeon is just outstanding, dripping in atmosphere. Yeah, and it's just a great little intro dungeon. There are better dungeons, and I'm gonna move on to the next one here, which is the Dongos Cavern. The Dongos Cavern, for me, I think it's also a B tier dungeon, not quite an A tier, but man, I love the Dongos Cavern. This is one of the dungeons that when I think about this game, this is one of the dungeons that I'm most nostalgic for. Like, this is one that as a kid I just love this damn thing. But going back and playing it as an adult, it's lacking in a few areas. The boss fight is very simplistic, very easy, but it is cool. It's a nice spectacle. Again, another a dungeon that's just oozing with atmosphere, just like the Great Deku Tree. This dungeon, there's a better fire dungeon on this list, but there's two fire dungeons in this game, but this one is pretty good. So I'm gonna go ahead and give it a B tier. Moving on from that, we have Jabbas Belly. Jabbas Belly, I gotta be honest, man, I didn't like Jabbas Belly as much as the first two dungeons. There's a lot of really annoying things with Jabbas Belly. One of those things is Princess Ruta, man. She's just a pain in the ass. You have to carry her throughout the dungeon, and you have to put her on, there's these puzzles where you have to put her on, these switches to open doors, and those are just kind of a pain in the ass. The boss fight, Baronade, was kind of fun, but also kind of a pain in the ass, too. Not as much fun as Goma or King Dodongo, that's for sure. But the dynamic in the relationship between Link and Princess Ruta was kind of interesting, and it kind of raises a lot of questions as to what her deal is and why she's attracted to Link. You know, they're not even the same species, but yeah, interesting dungeon. One of the most interesting dungeons in the history of gaming. I got to be honest. You literally get sucked into this fish and you're fighting inside his giant belly. But anyways, I'm giving Jabbas Belly a C tier. Oh, moving on from that, we have the Forest Temple. Oh, this is a tough one. Forest Temple. Where am I going to put Forest Temple? It's such a fucking good dungeon. Well, that's tough, man. I'm going to go ahead and, on this tier list, I think my opinion's changed. I don't know if I gave it... On my original tier list, I didn't give it this rank, but in this one, I'm going to give it the S tier. And I've just watched so many videos on this dungeon, and a lot of people just love this one. And I can see why. The Forest Temple is just one of those dungeons that's super iconic. The boss fight is probably one of the best boss fights in the entire series with Phantom Ganon. And it's one boss fight that really sticks with you when you play this game. I almost like Phantom Ganon more than I like the end fight with Ganon. So I gotta say, this dungeon is it's top tier. I'm putting it in the S tier. I think that's what it deserves. The music of this dungeon is fantastic. Really sets the tone. It's kind of got a creepy, unsettling song, but it's also peaceful at the same time. And it really just gives off that great forest vibe. This is one of the best forest dungeons in probably any Zelda game. I don't think really anything tops it yet. So I'm giving Forest Temple the S tier. And moving on from the Forest Temple, we have the Fire Temple. Ooh, Fire Temple for me is an A tier temple. I'm gonna go ahead and drop that right there in the A tier. There's a couple reasons why I'm putting Fire Temple in the A tier. And well, actually, I have another opinion come out that might be pretty controversial, but yeah, the Fire Temple is it's just a solid dungeon. What can I say, man? The boss fight against the Dragon Volvagia, that's one of the most iconic, epic boss fights in Zelda for sure. One of the best bosses in Zelda, no doubt, where you get the Megaton Hammer and you go and play Whack-A-Mole with it. That is on point. And it's kind of dark and creepy too. How they enslave the Gorons, and it's almost like a concentration camp for them. They put them in there, and they're systematically feeding them to the dragon and torturing them. So yeah, I thought that was interesting. But great vibes in this temple. I'm giving this temple an A tier. I absolutely love the Fire Temple. What can I say, man? Fire Temple gets an A tier from me. And then moving on from here, it gets kind of tricky. We have next up the Ice Cavern, which is kind of a sub-dungeon. This was on the original list, but I just decided to go ahead and throw it on this new one that I recreated as well. And the Ice Cavern, none of these dungeons suck, but the Ice Cavern is by far the weakest dungeon on this list. It's very short. It's got a lot of puzzles that are tricky. It's got like the block pushing puzzles where you have to push the blocks and make sure they don't slide off into the abyss. But anyways, Ice Cavern, it doesn't really even have a real boss. I think you fight some like ice wolfos, and that's about it. And then you talk to Sheik. Very short dungeon. This is notorious for having this bad ice physics. So yeah, Ice Cavern, out of all the dungeons, none of these dungeons are trash. But I'm gonna go ahead and give Ice Cavern the D tier. And next up we have, okay, so next up it kind of splits, and I'm going to go ahead and cover because this is the way I always play the game. But the Shadow Temple and the Bottom of the Well stuff comes next, and I'm going to kick it off with Bottom of the Well, where you get the Lens of Truth. Bottom of the Well is very good. I'm going to go ahead and give Bottom of the Well a B, and you'll see why later. But Bottom of the Well, I think this is the first time where you fight the Dead Hand as a kid, and it's just creepy as fuck. And the Dead Hand is one of the... I mean, even in games today, modern horror games, like Dead Hand stands out there. Like, you think of games like Silent Hill and Resident Evil and stuff, and they have some creepy-ass monsters. But, man, dude, I tell you, Dead Hand goes toe-to-toe with any of them. So I'm getting... Yeah, definitely giving Bottom of the Well a B tier. It's for what it is, just being a little sub-dungeon, kind of like the Ice Cavern, it's really on point. Creepy-ass vibes in that place. So, yeah, it's always creepy going down there. Bottom of the Well gets a B tier for me. Now, moving on, we have the actual Shadow Temple itself. Shadow Temple is an S tier temple for me. I don't care what people say, man. I love the Shadow Temple. Everything about the temple is just great. The music is creepy as hell. I like the boat and the River of Styx reference there. I like that you get to fight Dead Hand again, one of the most badass and creepy bosses in Zelda. Everything about this temple is just fucking creepy. I mean, you got it's essentially a repurposed torture chamber is what it is. So you get some really spooky vibes in here, and I love creepy shit. And you know me, you guys know me, like I love horror games, and so this just kind of ties into that. But yeah, the Shadow Temple, one of my personal favorite temples. I know it probably won't. I mean, for others it might not be as high. I just realized I skipped one. I'll get to it. Don't worry. I know you guys are freaking out that I skipped the Water Temple. Don't worry, the Water Temple's coming up, man. I got the Water Temple. Yeah, but anyways, Shadow Temple for me gets the S. It's just one of my most beloved temples. The boss is really cool. The lore behind it is cool. I love watching lore videos about the Shadow Temple. So, Shadow Temple for me is an S tier dungeon, definitely. And let's move on to the one I forgot, the Water Temple. People are going to hate me for this. Whatever, I don't care. Water Temple is A tier. Not an S, a solid A tier. I love the Water Temple. I think this has one of the best atmospheres of any temple in the game. I love the music in this level, man. I'm going to play a little bit probably in the video, but the music for this level is just on point. And then the battle with Dark Link, that is just so damn iconic. I mean, fuck. That has got to be one of the best fights in the game, bar none, for sure. The actual boss fight of this temple sucks, and that's kind of why I'm giving it a lower rating. And also in the 3DS version, they improved a lot of stuff, but it kind of like lost some of its charm, actually, you know? In the 3DS version, I didn't like it as much. I like the original OG N64 version of this temple. That's my favorite. But yeah, I love the Water Temple. I know a lot of people hate it with the switching off the boots and the water level and all that stuff, but I don't know, man. I like a challenge. I like hard games, and to me, Water Temple was just one of those ones in the game. Like, back when I was a kid, Water Temple was one of the only temples that really stood out as being kind of challenging. So I'm going to go ahead and give Water Temple the A tier on this list. And then moving on from there, we have the Spirit Temple. Man, Spirit Temple is also an A. It's got that really interesting mechanic where you have to go back in time as a kid and you play half the dungeon as a kid and half the dungeon as an adult. I just thought that was so brilliant. And really, this is probably one of the most unique dungeons in the game. On top of that, I also like the area leading up to it, where you go through like the Gerudo's training ground, and you go through the desert wasteland, like leading up to it. That was really cool, really fun. The boss fight in this level is really good. Twin Ruffle, you got the two witches. Oh, then you get the mirror shield in this level. All in all, Spirit Temple, great temple. Just not quite an S tier for me. I know some people might even put it in the S tier. But for me, I'm going to go ahead and leave it in the A tier. I think that's kind of where it belongs. And then you also have Ganon's Castle. I love Ganon's Castle. It's kind of just like the final exam of the game. You know, your final test. Good-ass temple. It's got like, what, 4 rooms, I think, that are kind of... It's kind of like a culmination of all the other temples in the game. You have to use all the skills that you learned in the game up to this point in the temple if you want to get through it. The boss fight with Ganon is really excellent, where it starts off, you know, you're playing tennis with him, he shoots the energy balls at you, you shoot them back at him. That's a lot of fun. The end boss fight, when you finally, you know, the castle crumbles and you have to escape it, that is really cool. I mean, that's something that just, it's stuck with me to this day as an adult. I played this game way back in '98 when it came out, and then that's something that just sticks with me today, like how badass the end boss was. Like, no games really do it like that anymore, at least I feel like that anyways. But that was just a fantastic boss battle. The end was really badass, where you're fighting Beast Ganon, and yeah, fuck, the whole thing is just awesome. Good way to cap off this iconic game, one of the best games of all time in my opinion, but that's just me. And probably, I think it still is my favorite Zelda game. But anyways, yeah guys, this has been my redo list of the Legends of Zelda Ocarina of Time dungeons. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Smash that like button, hit subscribe if you liked it. I mean, if not, that's cool too. But yeah, if you dislike it, dislike it. Well, I mean, whatever. But anyways, thank you guys so much for tuning into this this video. Anyways, guys, that's going to be about it for me. All right, until next time, I'm out. Peace.